Well, Associate Professor at the University of Wollongong, Markus Wagner, has been writing about the latest developments in Washington. I'm delighted to say joins us now live. Evening to you. So, no 25th Amendment. Talk us through what possibly could happen. What are the logistics of the next 48 hours?
Well, thanks so much for having me. And so we had various off-ramps. One, of course, would have been for the president to step down. That was always unlikely. We had the 25th Amendment, as we just heard. Route that has been ruled out by Vice President Pence. And now it looks fairly certain that on Wednesday, local time in Washington, we'll see the introduction of the second impeachment of President Trump for, as your colleague said, incitement of insurrection, which is really the incitement to violence while the vote of the Electoral College, or the counting of the Electoral College votes, was going on.
What sort of numbers are required in both houses?
So the numbers in the House are fairly straightforward. It's a majority, and given that the Democrats have a majority, I don't foresee any problems. As a matter of fact, we've heard today that at least 4 or 5 and possibly more House members from the Republican side will actually vote in favor of the impeachment from the House side. And that's significant because there seems to be a breaking up of that particular faction within the Republicans. And if I wear my cynical hat, it probably also positions particular players for leadership functions in the Republican Party.
Okay. Interesting. If Donald Trump is impeached again, obviously we know he'll be the first president to be impeached twice, but how else do the circumstances now compare with previous impeachments?
Well, as you know, no president has actually been impeached and convicted, and that is unlikely to be the case here again. So the requirements in the Senate are slightly different from the House. The Senate requires a 2/3 majority, but with a wrinkle, and the wrinkle is essentially a 2/3 of those who are present, of the senators who are present when the vote takes place. And there's doesn't take much to envision that some of the members who are the most fervent supporters of the president may actually not be present, and therefore the 67 number that we would have to have for conviction may actually be decreased, and then a 2/3 majority of those members who are present at the time.
So few days left, though, in the Trump presidency. Will it be resolved before the end of his term?
Well, I think your colleague asked me that a few days ago, and I said no. Now with Mitch McConnell having apparently switching sides, who's the Republican majority leader in the Senate, apparently switching side and saying he is quote unquote, quote, pleased, unquote, that impeachment will go forward. I'm just loath to make another prediction at this point. I would imagine that he wouldn't say that unless he thinks that there's a possibility that the impeachment would be successful. And again, that goes more towards saving what is left of the Republican Party identity, I would imagine.
If it doesn't, if he is impeached, if it does drag on through the beginning of the Biden presidency, that surely will be bad for the Democrats.
Well, there's talk. So there's 2 ways this could play out in terms of the timing. One is we do this before the 20th of January. My own take is that Mitch McConnell wouldn't give that present essentially to the Democrats. Because that would be a clean slate. The other then is to either start right after the 20th of January or to give this sort of 100-day period that many people think is sort of the magical time in which things start to, or in which things need to happen for incoming U.S. presidents. So there's talk to push it beyond that. That, I think, then decreases the symbolism, if you will, of trying to get the impeachment done. I think one thing that is good to mention in that regard is it's not only the Democrats that would benefit from this. It's also some Republican senators who have their eyes on the 2024 election, because there's 2 parts to the trial, if you will, in the Senate. One is to remove the president from his position. The second one is to potentially, and that's in the resolution, I think, is to also prevent him from running again in 2024. And of course, that would then open the way for other Republican hopefuls who may or may not be senators.
Yeah, interesting. How much do you think, though, all of this plays into Trump's core base, who believe in the fake news media, who believe it's a witch hunt and that is all a big conspiracy?
That's really hard to tell because I frankly don't travel in those circles. But my own take is that the Republican Party and many in the Republican Party have let this go on for way too long. I think one of the senators said very clearly the best thing to tell voters at the moment is the truth, right? And that hasn't happened for a long time. And so if you listen to certain interviews with Trump and the loyalists, and I don't think there is a way to convince people, unfortunately, that these elections have not taken place in a straightforward fashion. And so there may well be further riots, and there may be and that's just something that the U.S. body politic has to somehow weather. And if anything, the last few days have given me some hope that may actually be the case.
Associate Professor Markus Wagner, thank you.